would prove him right or wrong, not knowing anything for certain. He knew only that he had exercised the discipline necessary to make the best decision he could. Cowardice had not restrained him. Informed caution had. That and courage. The courage to endure another night of terror and suffering. He was aware of his situation, its risks and rewards. He had weighed his prospects as judiciously as time and circumstances allowed. And he chose well. As it turned out, Bud was to wait nearly 6 years for the freedom he had nearly grasped that night. He had risen with the dawn and made his way toward the base. He was spotted by 2 North Vietnamese soldiers. He made a run for cover, and just before he reached it, a bullet to his left leg brought him down. He hid in the bush as best he could. He lay still, trying not to breathe or groan from the pain, his heartbeat the only sound. He listened as his enemies tore madly through the jungle, shouting and firing indiscriminately. He lay still as one of them drew almost near enough to touch him, but for a moment still could not see or hear him. And then he did. They tortured Bud for his heroism on the long ride to Hanoi. They tortured him even more cruelly once he arrived at the dark, daunting, and dangerous prison they called Wallow, the fiery furnace. Torture could change a man forever, but it didn't change him. He was as tough, as brave, and as confident the day he left captivity as he had been the day he had almost escaped it. As unfortunate as his capture was for Bud, it was salvation for many others. Few leaders in Vietnam's prisoner of war camps were as honorable, brave, and inspiring as he was. The courage of his heroic escape attempt was recognized by a Medal of Honor, which was also given him for the trials he so bravely endured on behalf of all of us in the long years ahead. Included in the credit he can always claim is my life. But for Bud Day and his misfortune, I do not think I would have ever left that prison. But that's another story. I tell this part of Bud's story because it involves such a fateful and admirable decision. In the time I shared his circumstances, I would see him make other hard and sometimes life-risking decisions, and in my judgment they were usually the right ones. But I think this one, a decision with everything on the line, revealed all the attributes I most respect about good decision-making and exemplary decision-makers. It's one of those rare instances when the assessment of the quality of the decision doesn't depend most, or even much, on its outcome. Part of the reason for that is that we can never know for certain whether, had he chosen the other course, he would be alive to tell the tale. But more, it is because in the direst circumstances, suffering physically and mentally from extraordinary hardships, with no counsel, no assistance of any kind, utterly on his own, with his emotions in tumult, he managed to think clearly and carefully about his choice and make a sober, considered judgment. He committed himself to it, checked what was surely a hypercharged survival instinct, and went to sleep. He was as aware of his situation, the environment in which he must make a decision, as was possible. He knew the terrain. He knew how to navigate it. He understood the risks and the opportunities. He believed he had the necessary resources, in this case, his own fortitude, to achieve his objective. He had taken the measure of his enemies, understood as much as he could about their methods and resources. He appreciated the potential for catastrophic mishap when an 18-year-old sentry is startled in the dark. He had known when the right moment was at hand to slip his ropes, having sensed that it would soon pass. And when he made his final decision, he sensed that the moment for his last effort had not arrived. He had foresight. He could see the possible where most others would have seen disaster and hopelessness. His foresight, as foresight often is, was rooted in his confidence. His was an instinct honed from years of experience and preparation. He was sure of himself, but it wasn't vanity that made him so. He trusted his strength and practical sense. It had always served him well. Vietnam was his third war, and this hadn't been his first existential decision. He compensated for his weakness, his desperation, and he trusted he had the courage to stick it out. He acted with humility. He did not risk everything to avoid imprisonment and worse for his own sake.